Hello, my name is Mayanka. I am accounts and finance trainer from Uplatz. Today, we will cover the topic of refund. This is part 5 of such concept. This is the last part in which we will discuss least relevant and the important concept which are relating to the refund. In our previous class, part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4, we have covered important and the relevant provisions which are relating to the refund. How to how to make an application for refund? What is the definition and meaning of refunds? What is the definition of other terms and time limit for making the application for refund? Procedure for refund? What are the conditions of refund? In which situation the refund is available, and so on. These all are provision are the very much important in the case of GST provision. Means this is the refund concept is one of the important concept under the GST. So this is our last class of refund. This is our last class of refund in which we will discuss other relevant and the risk provisions of refund. So now we will start the provision of refund. Part 5 of refund. Refund under the GST. Number 1. Refund to UN. Refund to the UN bodies, assemblies, etc. The refund to the UN bodies and to the assemblies, etc. Section 55 read with rule, Section 55 read with Section 54(2) of CGST Act. Section 55 read with Section 54 subsection 2 of CGST Act. Supplier, when there is any supplier who makes a supply to the UN bodies or to the assembly, when there is any supply of any goods, supply of any services, or both, when there is any supply which is made to the UN bodies and to the assembly, it may be exempted from the payment of GST as per the international obligation. When there is any supply of any goods or supply of any services to the UN bodies, to the UN body and assemblies, then it may be exempted from the payment of GST. Then it may be exempted from the payment of GST. However, this exemption has been however, this exemption has been operationalized by the way of refund mechanism. However, this exemption may be operationalized by the way of refund. So, a taxable person who is making the supply to the UN bodies and to the assemblies would charge the tax due and remit the same to the government account. Is that when there is any supply which is made to the UN bodies and to the assembly, it may be exempted from the payment of GST as per the international obligation. As per the international obligation. This exemption can be availed by the way of refund mechanism. Means such exemption is availed by the person, or it can be used by the person by the way of refund. Means the person is required to make the payment of tax. He will make the payment of tax to the government, but he can take the refund of such tax payment. He can take the refund of such payment which is made to the government. However, the UN bodies and the other entities which are notified under section 55, under section under section 55 can claim refund of the tax which is paid by them on their inward supply. Is that when is that when the UN body and the other entity which is notified under section 55, which are notified under the section 55, can claim, they can make the claim of the tax which is paid by them on their inward supply. When there is any supply which is made by the UN bodies from any of the supply, when there is any supply which is made by any supplier to the UN body. So in this case, the UN body will pay the amount of GST on such supply. Is that the supplier? He will charge the amount of GST. He will charge, he will charge the amount of GST on such supply. So the amount of GST will be paid by such UN bodies to the supplier. Then the UN body, or the any other entities which are notified by which are notified under section 55, they can claim such amount of, they can claim the refund of such amount. Means the amount of tax which is paid by UN body or by the any bodies which are notified by section 55, they can claim the amount of such, they can claim the refund of such amount. Means such amount can be claimed by them, which is paid by them as a GST in the on their outward supply. The claim has to be made. The claim has to be made before the expiry of 6 months. The claim of refund has to be made before the expiry of 6 months. Before the expiry of 6 months means such a refund application is to be made by such person within the period of 6 months. But now it is increased to 18 months. Increased to 18 months in the respect of power which is granted under section 148. In exercise of power 148, now it has been extended. Now it has been extended and it will be increased to 18 months. So now the application for making the refund is to be made within the period of 18 days. Sorry, 18 months. From the last date of quarter in which the supply was received. From the last date of quarter. From the last date of quarter in which the supply was received. Means, for the example, the supply is received in the month of March. It is received in the month of March. Such quarter will be end, or it will be expired on 31st March. So the last day of quarter is 31st March. Then 18 months from the date of such 31st March, or the 6 months from the date of such 31st March. The application is to be made within the period of 6 months or within the period of 18 months from such a 31st, from the end of the quarter. Quarter will be end on 31st March, from the 31st March. Detailed provision has been discussed. Now we will discuss such provision in the detailed form. Means, now we will discuss each and every process about such a refund in the detailed form, so that we can understand such concept very properly and in explained form. Number 1. Who is entitled to refund under section 55? Who is entitled to refund under section 55? The government may, on the recommendation of GST Council, by notification. The government may, on the recommendation of GST Council, by the notification. By the notification specified. Number 1. Any specialized agency of United Nations organization. Any specialized agency of the United Nations organization. The government may, on the basis of recommendation of GST Council, it can notify by the notification, and it can specify the number 1, any specified agency of any specified agency of UNO, United Nation Organization, any specified agency of United Nation Organization, or any multilateral financial institution and organization which are notified under the United Nations Act 1947. Any multilateral financial institution and organization which are notified under the United Nations Act 1947, or consulate or assembly of foreign countries, assemblies of assembly on consulate of the foreign countries, and any other person or the class of the person, any other person or the class of the person as may be specified in this behalf, any other person or the class of the person as may be specified in this behalf, who shall who shall subject to such condition and restriction as may be prescribed, be entitled to claim the refund of taxes which is paid on the notified inward supply of goods, services, or both which is received by them. Instead, the government may, on the recommendation of GST Council, it can notify by the notification specifically. Number one, any specialized agency of United Nations Organization, any specialized agency of the United Nations Organization. Number two, any multilateral financial institution and organization which is notified under the United Nations Act 1947, or any assembly or consulate of foreign country, and any other person or the class of the person as may be notified on such behalf, then who shall subject to the condition, and the person on the basis of conditions, on the basis of restriction as may be prescribed, the person who are prescribed, they are entitled to claim, they are entitled they are entitled to claim they are entitled to claim of refund of taxes, they are entitled to claim the refund of the taxes which is paid by them on the notified inward supply of goods, services, or both which is received by them. Is that all these ever mentioned person or the notified person, they can make the refund, they can take the refund of tax which is paid by them on the notified inward supply of goods, services, or both. For the example, there is a foreign assembly which received some supply of notified goods, and the amount of GST is paid by such assembly at the time of payment. So in this case, such assembly has an option that it is entitled to take the refund of such tax which is paid by such assembly on such inward supply of such notified goods. In exercise of our power, following person has been notified subject to the fulfillment of specific condition. There are some specific conditions or there are some specific restrictions. So on the basis of such a specific condition, there are some persons who are notified under this provision. The following persons has been notified subject to the fulfillment of specific condition. Number one, United Nations or a specified international organization. Number one is United Nation or a specified international organization. United Nation or a specified international organization. And number two, number two, foreign diplomatic mission. Foreign diplomatic mission or consular post in India. Foreign diplomatic mission or consular post or consular post India, in India, or diplomatic agent or courier or carrier consulation consular officer posted there in. Number one is a United. Number one is a United Nation or a United Nation or a specified international organization and foreign diplomatic mission or consular post in India or diplomatic agent or carrier consular officer who are posted there. These are the persons who has the power to take the refund, but on the basis of certain specific conditions. Specific international organization. What is the meaning of specific international organization? Specific international organization means an international organization which is declared by the central government in the pursuance of section 3 of the United Nations Act 1949, to which the provision of the schedule to said act applicable. Specific international organization means an organization or an international organization which is declared by the central government, in the pursuance of section 3, of United Nations Act 1947, to whom the provision of the schedule the to whom the provision of schedule to be said applicable, to whom the provision of the schedule will be applicable. Further, in exercise of said power, canteen store department, in the respect of said power, the canteen store department under the Ministry of Defence has been notified as a person who shall be notified to claim a refund of 50% of the applicable CGST, IGST, which is paid by it on all inward supply of goods which is received by it for the purpose of subsequent apply of such goods to the unit run canteen, to the CSD, or to the authorized customer of the CSD. Is that in exercise to the said power, canteen store department, under the Ministry of Defence, has been notified. As per this provision, the CSD of under the Ministry of Defence has been notified as a person who shall be eligible or who shall be entitled to claim the refund up to 50%. Claim of refund of 50% of the applicable CGST or IGST, which is paid by him, it. Means if there is any canteen store department under the Ministry of Defence, then it can take the refund, or it can file an application for the refund of 50% of the taxes of the CGST tax or IGST tax, which is paid by it all all the inward supply of the goods which is received by it for the purpose of subsequent supply of such goods to the unit run canteen of the CST or to the authorized customer of CST. If such goods or such inward supply will be used for the outward supply, for the further outward supply, for the further subsequent supply of such goods, and such supply is made to the unit run canteen, to the unit run canteens of the CST or to the authorized customer of CST. CSD means canteen store department. Now we will discuss the time limit for filing the refund claim. What will be the time limit for filing refund claim? Section 54, subsection 2. Read with rule 95, sub rule 1. Time limit for filing the refund claim. Time limit for filing the refund claim. Section 54, subsection 2, read with rule 95, subrule 1. Person who is eligible to claim the refund under section 55 is that the persons who are eligible to take the refund under section 55 entitled to a refund of tax which is paid by it on the inward supply of goods, inward supply of service, or both, may make an application for such refund. They can make an application for such refund in such form and manner as may be prescribed once in every quarter, but before the expiry of 6 months from the last day of the quarter in which such a supply was received. Is that the person who are eligible to take the claim of refund under section 55, who are eligible to take the refund under section 55, they are entitled to take the refund of tax. They are entitled to take the refund of tax. They are entitled to take the refund of tax which is paid by it on the inward supply. They are entitled, or they can take the refund. They can take the refund of tax which is paid by it on the inward supply of goods, inward supply of service, or inward supply of goods. They can make an application for such refund. They can make an application for such refund in such a manner as we prescribed. And such application is required to be filed before the expiry of 6 months from the last day of quarter in which supply was received. For the example, there is a assembly. There is assembly which is entitled to take the refund under section 55, which is eligible to claim the refund under section 55. It has received some goods, some inward supply from a supplier, and the amount of GST is paid by it on such inward supply. So in this case, now such assembly can make an application for the refund. Such assembly can make an application for the refund of such tax which is paid by it on the inward supply of such goods. Such a application is required to be made. Such application is required to be made in such form and in such a manner as may be prescribed. Means such application is required to be made in the prescribed form or in the prescribed manner. Such application is required to be made in the prescribed manner. In the prescribed manner. Such application is required to be made. Such an application is required to be made once in every quarter, but before the expiry of 6 months. Such application is required to be made once in a quarter. Once in a quarter, but before the expiry of 6 months. But before the expiry of 6 months from the last day of each quarter in which such supply has been received. In which such supply has been received. Now we will discuss forms and the document for filing the refund claim. What are the forms and what are the documents which are required to be filed? Which are required to be filed for the refund claim. What are the forms and what are the documents for filing the refund claim? Rule 95, subrule 1. Rule 95, subrule 1. The persons who are eligible to claim the refund under section 55 shall submit the application for refund. The persons who are eligible to claim the refund under section 55 who are eligible to claim the refund under section 55 shall submit an application for the refund. They shall submit an application for the refund in the different prescribed form once in the prescribed form in the every quarter. They will submit an application in the different prescribed forms once in every quarter. Along with the statement of inward supply of goods, inward supply of service, or both in form GSTR 11. They will they will prescribe they will submit an application for the refund in the different prescribed form once in every quarter, along with the statement of inward supply, along with the statement or the evidence of inward supply which is made by them from the supplier, inward supply which is made by them from the supplier, and such inward supply of goods, such inward supply of service, or both in the form GSTR 11. Means such information is required to be submitted in the form of GSTR 11. Means the detail of inward supply of goods, inward supply of services, or inward supply of both is required to be made in form GSTR 11. In form GSTR 11. So such application is required to be filed along with the statement of inward supply of goods, supply service, inward supply of service, or inward supply of both in form GSTR 11. Now we will discuss the acknowledgement for the refund claim. Acknowledgement for refund claim. Rule 95 sub-rule 2. Acknowledgement for refund claim. Rule 95 sub-rule 2. An acknowledgement for receipt of the application for refund shall be issued in the prescribed form. An application for receipt of application. An application for receipt of application for refund. An acknowledgement for the receipt of application for the refund shall be issued in the prescribed form. The receipt is also issued in the prescribed form. Now we will discuss the condition to be satisfied for sanction the refund. Now we will discuss the condition which are required to be satisfied for sanction the amount of refund. Rule 95, sub-rule 3 and sub-rule 4. Now we will discuss the condition. Refund of tax which is paid by the applicant shall be available if all the following conditions are satisfied. The refund of tax which is paid by the applicant. The refund of tax. The refund of tax which is paid by the applicant shall be available only if the following conditions are satisfied. Is that if all these conditions are satisfied, then the applicant can take the refund of the tax which is paid by him on the inward supply. He can take the refund of the tax which is paid by him on the inward supply if all the conditions which are given below are satisfied. Number 1 is the inward supply of goods, the inward supply of service or both were received from a registered person against the tax invoice. Such inward supply of goods, such inward supply of service or both were received from the registered person against the tax invoice. Means it will be received from a registered person and the tax invoice is also received in the respect of such inward supply of goods, inward supply of service or both. Second condition, name and GST number. Name and GST identification number and UIN, unique identification number of the applicant is mentioned in the tax invoice. The name of the applicant, the GST number of applicant, the name of the applicant, the GST number of the applicant is mentioned in the tax invoice. It should be mentioned in the tax invoice. Such other restrictions or conditions as may be specified in the notification are satisfied. Any other restriction or any other condition as may be specified in the notification are also required to be satisfied. So, the conditions are: number one, the inward supply of goods, inward supply of service or both are received. It should be received from a registered person. It should be received from a registered person against a tax invoice. Means a tax invoice is issued by the supplier in the respect of such supply. Tax invoice is issued in the respect of such supply. Name and GST number of the applicant. Name and the GST number of the applicant is mentioned in the tax invoice. The name and the GST number of the applicant. The name and the GST number of the applicant is mentioned in the tax invoice. It should be mentioned in the tax invoice, and such other condition or restrictions as may be specified in the notification are satisfied. All the conditions which are mentioned should be satisfied. Now we will discuss supreme provision in the case of inconsistency. Inconsistency. What will be the supreme provision in the case of inconsistency? Rule 95, Subrule 5. Where an express provision is a treaty or other international agreement to which the President or the Government of India is a party, where there is a express provision in the treaty or other international agreement, or there is the other international agreement to which the President of India or to the Government of India is a party, is consistent with the provision of these rules, then it will be consist with the provision of these rules. Such a treaty or international agreement shall be prevailed. Then the agreement or such a treaty will be prevailed. Means it will be supreme. Such international agreement will be supreme. It will be prevailed. Now we will discuss a specialized agency which is notified under section 55. Now we will discuss the notified agencies under section 55, which are entitled to take the refund of IGST which is paid on imported of goods. Now we will discuss the agencies which are notified under section 55, which are entitled, the agencies which are entitled to refund of IGST which is paid on the import of goods. Section 55 provides refund of tax which is paid on the notified supply of goods, supply of service or both. Section 55 provides a refund of tax which is paid on the notified supply of goods, supply of service or both by the notified specialized agency. By the notified specialized agency like United Nations or a specified international organization. Section 3 subsection 7 Section 3 subsection 7 of the Custom Tariff Act 1975 provides for a treaty between the integrated tax rate which is attract on imported goods and the integrated tax which is applicable on the domestic supply of goods. Is that section 55 provides a refund of tax which is paid by the notified supplier, which is paid by the notified supplier on the notified supply of goods, notified supply of service or both. Notified supply of goods, services or both by the specialized agency like United Nations or the specified international organization. Section 3, Section 3, Subsection 7 of the Custom Tariff Act 1975. Section 3, Subsection 7 of Custom Tariff Act 1975 provides for a parity between the integrated tax rate which are attract on imported goods. A parity between the integrated tax rate which attract on imported goods and the integrated tax rate which are applicable on the domestic supply of goods. Therefore, on this principle of parity, a specialized agency ought to get the refund of IGST which is paid on imported goods. Therefore, on the principle of parity, a specialized agency ought to get the refund of IGST which is paid on the imported goods. Means on the basis of this, these agencies can take the refund of IGST which is paid by them on such imported goods. On the basis of such principle, these specialized agency can get the refund of IGST which is paid by them on such imported goods. Now we will discuss the refund to retail outlets which are established in the departure area of an international airport. Refund of retail outlets. The refund of retail outlets which are established in the departure area of an international airport. In the departure area of international airport. Supply, when there is any supply of goods which is made by the retail outlet which are established in the departure area of international airport. When there is any supply of goods which is made by the retail outlet and the retail outlets which are established in the departure area of international airport beyond the immigration counters. To and outgoing international tourists is exempt from IGST when there is any supply which is made by the when there is any supply of goods. Number one, there is a supply of goods and it is made by the retail outlet. And the retail outlets are established or it is in the departure area of international airport. Beyond the immigration counters to an outgoing international tourist, then such supply is exempt from IGST. Then such supply of goods shall be exempt from the IGST. These retail outlets making tax-free supply of indigenous goods to and outgoing international tourists. These outlets making tax-free supply. These outlets makes the tax-free supply to the tourists, to the international tourists, to the outgoing international tourists. So these outlets are eligible or these outlets are entitled to claim the refund of applicable CGST, SGST or UTGST or IGST which is paid by them on the inward supply of such goods. In this case, these outlets are eligible to take the refund of IGST, to take the refund of CGST, to take the refund of UTGST or CGST, which is paid by them, which is paid by such outlet on the inward supply of such goods. Means if there is any inward supply of goods and on such inward supply, the tax is paid by such outlet. In this case, they can, as per this provision, they can take the refund. They can take the refund, or they can entitled to claim the refund of applicable CGST, SGST, UTGST, and IGST, which is paid on inward supply of goods. Therefore, retail outlets will supply such indigenous goods without collecting any tax from the eligible passenger and may apply for the refund. Is that when there is any supply of these type of goods, they will not collect the amount of tax. Such outlets will not collect the amount of tax from the eligible passenger. From the eligible passenger. And they and such outlet will also apply for the refund. The amount of tax which is paid by them on such inward supply. The refund shall be subject to the following conditions as specified in newly inserted Rule 95A. Such rule shall be subject to the following conditions. Means in the respect of such rule, there are some conditions. There are some conditions which are specified in Rule 95 sub-rule A. Sorry, 95A, which are specified in Rule 95A. Number 1. Who is eligible for the refund? Number 1. Who is the eligible for the refund? Retail outlay which is registered under the GST. The retail outlets which are registered under the GST and holding a valid GST number. The retail outlets which are registered under the GST and these outlay hold a valid GST identification number, which is and such outlet established in the departure area of international airport. Such retail outlets established in the departure area of an international airport beyond the immigration counters, supplying indigenous goods to an outgoing international tourist who is leaving India shall be eligible to claim the refund of tax which is paid by it on the inward supply of such goods. For the purpose of such refund, such outlay should be registered under GST and it should have a registered or a valid GST number. And it should be established in the departure area of international airport. And who is supplying the indigenous goods to an outgoing international tourist who is leaving the India. Then such outlay shall be eligible if all these situations are there, if all these conditions are fulfilled. Then such a retail outlay will be eligible to claim the refund of the tax. Claim the refund of the tax which is paid by it on the inward supply of goods. Number 2, application for the refund. Number 2 is the application for the refund. Retail outlay shall furnish the application for the refund claim. Retail outlay shall furnish the application for the refund claim in the prescribed form on the monthly and quarterly basis, along with the self-certified compliant information of the invoice which is issued for the supply which is made during the month or during a quarter, as the case may be, along with the concerned purchase invoice. Application for the refund. the retail outlay shall make an application for the purpose of refund claim. The outlay will prepare or it shall furnish a application for the purpose of refund. Such application is required to be made in the prescribed form. Such application is to be made in the prescribed form on the monthly basis or on the quarterly basis, along with the self-certified compliance information, along with the self-certified compliant information of the invoice which is issued for the supply which is made by it during the month or during the period as the case may be, and along with the concerned purchase invoice. Means if such a application is required to be filed by the retail outlet in the prescribed form on a month or quarterly basis. It along with the statement, along with the information which will contain the information about the supply which is made by such a retail outlet during the month or during the quarter, or along with the concerned purchase invoice. The purchase invoice of the inward is also be required. So such application shall be made in this manner. Now we will discuss the condition for claiming the refund. Now we will discuss the condition for claiming the refund. What are the conditions for claiming the refund? The refund of tax which is paid by the said outlay shall be available if the refund of tax paid. The refund of tax paid, the refund of tax which is paid by the said retail outlay shall be available only if number one, the inward supply of goods were received by the said retail outlay from a registered person against the tax invoice. Number one, the inward supply of goods was received by the said outlet from a registered person. Means the inward supply which is made by the retail outlay, it should be made from the registered person against the tax invoice, and in the respect of such supply the tax invoice has been received by such a inward such a retail outlet. Number two, the said goods were supplied by the said retail outlet to an outgoing international tourist against the foreign exchange without charging any tax. The goods which are received from the supplier should be used, or it should be supplied. It should be supplied by the such a retail outlet to an outgoing international tourist, to the international tourist against the foreign exchange, and on such supply no amount of tax will be charged. No amount of the TDS will be charged. Number third condition is name and the GST number of the retail outlet. It should be mentioned on the tax invoice for the outward supply. The tax invoice of the outward supply shall contain the name and the GST number of such a retail outlet. And another one condition is such the restriction and the condition as may be specified are satisfied. If there are some other condition or some other specific situation or the restriction, then it should also be completed or fulfilled. If all these conditions are satisfied, then the retail outlet can make an application for the refund of the tax which is paid by it on the inward supply of goods. The provision of Rule 92 shall mutandis applicable for the sanction and the payment of refund under this rule. The provision of Rule 9 shall also be applicable for the sanctioning and for the payment of refund under this rule. Now we will discuss the interest on the delayed refund. When there is any application which is made by the applicant in the respect of refund, but the refund is made by the proper officer or made by the authority out of reasonable time period, means it is made after the means made it is made it is made delayed, means the payment of the refund is made delayed. So in this case, there is the provision of section 56 of CGST Act. There is the provision of CGST Act, which is contained the provision of interest on delayed refund. Interest on delayed refund. Section 56. Section 56 of CGST Act. Section 56 of CGST Act. Interest on the delayed interest on the amount which is refundable consequent to the order which is passed by the proper officer under section 54 subsection 5. Now we will discuss the interest on the refund, interest on the amount of refund which is consequent to the order which is passed by the proper officer under section 54 subsection 5, where any amount of tax which is ordered to be refunded under section 54 subsection 5, where any amount of refund which is ordered under section 54 subsection 5 to any applicant, where the amount of the refund which is ordered by the proper officer under section 54 subsection 5, but it is not refunded but it is not refunded but it is not refunded within the period of 60 days, but it is not refunded within the period of 60 days from the date of receipt of application. It is not refunded within the period of 60 days from the date of receipt of such application. Under section 54 subsection 1, it is not refunded within the 60 days from the date of from the date of such application under section 54 subsection 1. Then the interest shall be payable to the applicant. Then the interest shall be payable to the applicant. The interest shall be payable to the applicant. The rate of the interest shall be the 16% per annum. The rate of the interest shall be 6%. The rate of the interest will be 6% per annum. The interest is payable to the applicant from the date immediately after the expiry of 60 days. Means the applicant will be eligible for the interest only after the expiry of 60 days from the date of receipt of application under section 54 subsection 1 till the date of refund of such a tax. Till the date of refund of such tax. For the example, if the application for the refund is sanctioned by the proper officer on 1st April, so such a refund is required to be made within the period of 60 days from the 1st April. If such a refund is not made within the period of 60 days from the 1st April, then there is the requirement to pay the amount of interest also. The rate of the interest will be 6% per annum, and it will be the amount of the interest will be start from the first day when such a 60 day will be expired. When such a 60 day will be expired. So the interest is payable to the applicant from the date immediately after the expiry of 60 days from the date of receipt of application under section 54 subsection 1 till the date of refund of such a tax. Section 56 of CGST Act. Section 56 of the CGST Act. Now, we will discuss the interest on amount which is refundable consequent to the order which is passed in an appeal or further processing. Interest on amount. Interest on amount which is refundable, which is refundable consequent to order which is passed in the appeal or further process, where any claim of refund arises from an order which is passed by the adjudication authority or appellant authority or appellant tribunal or court, which has attended which is attended which has been attended finality, and the same is not refunded within the period of 60 days from the date of receipt of application filed subsequent to such order, then the interest shall be liable to be paid. Is that there is a refund application and it is passed, and such a refund is arise from an order which is passed by the adjudication authority, adjudication authority, appellant tribunal, or any court, and such a refund is fine. But such a refund is final, but such a refund is not made within the period of 60 days. Such a refund is not made within the period of 60 days from the date of receipt of application. Such a refund is not made within the period of 60 days. It is not made within the period of 60 days from the date of receipt of application. It is not received within the period of 60 days from the date of receipt of application, which is filed subsequent to such order. In this case, the provision of the interest shall be applicable is that the interest shall be payable on such refund. On such refund, the interest is required to be paid. Interest is payable at the rate 9%. The interest is required to be payable at the rate 9% per annum. The interest is required to be payable at the rate 9% per annum. Interest is payable from the date immediately after the expiry of 60 days. The interest is required to be paid immediately after the expiry of 60 days from the date of receipt of application. From the date of receipt of application till the date of refund. Interest is payable from the date immediately after the expiry of 6 months. Sorry, immediately after the expiry of 60 days from the date of receipt of such application. From the date of receipt of such application till the date of refund. If the refund is required to be made as on 1st January, then it is, if it is sanctioned as on 1st January, then it should be made within 60 days from the date of 1st January. But if it is not refunded, if the amount is not refunded within the period of 60 days from the date of 1st January, then the rate of the interest will be 9%. Means the interest is required to be made at the rate 9%. And such a interest will be start from the first day after the expiry of 60 days. When the 60 days will be expired, the amount of interest is required to be calculated. It will be required to be calculated. So this is the interest on amount which is refundable consequent to the order which is passed in the appeal and further processing. In this case, the rate of the interest is 9%, or in normal case, the rate of the interest is 6%. Order sanctioning interest on delay refund. Order sanctioning interest on delay refund. Rule 94. Where any interest is due, where any amount of the interest is due, or the amount of the interest which is payable to the applicant under section 56, where any interest is due or payable to the applicant under section 56, then the proper officer shall make an order along with the payment, along with the payment order in the prescribed form, where any interest is due and it is payable to the applicant under section 56. Under section 56, then the proper officer shall make an order, along with the payment order in the prescribed form. It shall make an order along with the payment order in the prescribed form. Such order shall specify therein. Such order shall specify therein, number one, the amount of refund which is delayed. Such order shall contain the following information. Number one, the amount of refund which is delayed. The amount of refund which is delayed. Number two, the period of delay for which interest is payable. Number one, the amount of refund which is delayed. Number two, the period for which interest is payable. The period of the delay for which the interest is required to be payable, and the amount of the interest which is required to be payable. The amount of refund which is required to be, the amount of interest, sorry, the amount of interest which is required to be paid. Such interest shall be electronically credited to any of the bank account. Such amount of the interest shall be credited. It is shall be electronically credited to the bank account of the applicant. The bank account which is mentioned in the registration particulars, or as may be specified in the application for the refund. Then such amount will be automatically or will be electronically. It will be electronically credited to the any bank account of such applicant. Now we will discuss customer welfare fund. What is the meaning of customer welfare fund? Section 57 and Section 58 of CGST Act. Customer Welfare Fund, Section 57 and Section 58 of CGST Act. Customer Welfare Fund was created to promote and to protect the welfare of the customer. The Customer Welfare Fund is a fund which is created to promote and to protect the welfare of customers. Create customer awareness and strengthen customer movement in the country. It is created to the customer awareness. It is create to the customer awareness and customer awareness and strength consumer movement in the country, particularly in the rural area. Amount of refund which is not payable to the applicant is credited to the consumer welfare fund. The amount which is not credited to the customer account or to the taxpayer account is credited to the consumer welfare fund. Is said when there is any application for the refund which is made by any person or any taxpayer. When the amount of refund which is not payable to the applicant, then such amount of refund is credited to the consumer welfare fund. It is it is made for the protection and for the promotion of welfare of the consumer, create consumer awareness and the strength of consumer movement in the India, particularly in the rural area. Amount to be created in the consumer welfare fund. Now we will discuss the amount which is to be credited to the consumer welfare fund. Section 57 stipulates that the government shall constitute a fund. Section 57 stipulates that the government shall constitute a fund which is to be called consumer welfare fund, which is to be known as consumer welfare fund. and they shall be created to the fund. In such fund, the following amount shall be created. Number 1. Amount of refund which is determined by an order which is passed under section 54 subsection 5. In the Consumer Welfare Fund, the following amount are required to be credited. Number 1. The amount of refund which is determined by an order which is passed under section 54 subsection 5. Number 1. The amount of refund which is determined by an order. The order which is passed under section 54 subsection 5. Number 2. Any income from investment on the any income for the investment. Any income from the investment of the account of the amount which is created to the fund. Any income from the investment of the amount which is created to the fund, and such other monies which is received by it. Such other money which is received by it. So, the amount of Consumer Welfare Fund will be created. Number 1, the amount of refund which is determined by an order which is passed under section 54. The amount of refund. Number 2, any income from investment. Any income from the investment of the amount which is created to the welfare, and such other monies which is received by it in such a manner as may be prescribed. Such manners has been prescribed under Rule 97. The manner has been prescribed under Rule 97. Now we will discuss the amount. To be created or paid from the Consumer Welfare Fund. Now we will discuss the amount which will be created to or which will be created to or paid from the Consumer Welfare Fund. Rule 97. Rule 97. All amounts of duty, CGST, SGST, UTGST, and IGST, cess or any other income from the investment, along with the other monies which are specified in section 12C subsection 2 of the East While Central Excise Act 1944, Section 57 of CGST Act 2017, read with Section 20 of IGST Act, Section 21 of UTGST Act 2017, and Section 12 of GST Act 2017 shall be created to the Consumer Welfare Fund. Is that the amount of IGST, the amount of CGST, the amount of UTGST, and the amount of SGST, and the amount of cess, and income from investment, along with the other monies which are specified in section, which is specified in the different section of different laws, shall be created to the consumer consumer fund account, Consumer Welfare Fund account. Number 2, an amount which is equivalent to the 50%. Amount equivalent to the 50% of the amount of IGST. The amount which is equivalent to the 50% of the amount of IGST which is determined under section 54 subsection 5. An amount which is equivalent to the 50% of the amount of IGST which is determined under section 54 subsection 5 of CGST Act. Read with section 20 of the IGST Act shall be deposited in the fund. An amount equivalent to the 50% of amount of IGST which is determined under section 54 subsection 5 of the CGST Act. Read with section 20 of the IGST Act shall be deposited in the fund account. Number three, an amount which is equivalent to the 50%. The amount which is equivalent to the 50% of the amount of compensation cess. The amount which is equivalent to the 50% of the amount of compensation cess, which is determined under section 54 subsection 5 of CGST Act, which is determined under section 54 subsection 5 of CGST Act. Read with section 11 of GST. Read with section 11 of GST Act. Shall be deposited in the fund. Shall be deposited in the fund. Number 4, any amount, any amount having been created, any amount having been created to the Consumer Welfare Fund, ordered or directed as payable to any claimant by the order of the proper officer, by the order of appellant authority, by the order of appellant tribunal or court, shall be paid from the fund. From the fund, any amount have been credited to the Consumer Welfare Fund, which is ordered or directed, which is ordered and directed by the appellant tribunal, appellant, proper officer, appellant authority, and court to make the payment to any claimant, then it shall be paid from the fund. Such amount is required to be paid from such fund. So these are the amount which are created and required to be made, and the amount which is required to be used for make the payment through the Consumer Welfare Fund. Now we will discuss the utilization of Consumer Welfare Fund. Utilization of Consumer Welfare Fund. Section 58, read with Rule 97. Section 58, read with Rule 97. Utilization of Consumer Welfare Fund. Utilization of Consumer Welfare Fund. All sums which are created to the Consumer Welfare Fund shall be utilized